I'd like to call this March the 1st, 2021 meeting to order. All stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to welcome everybody out to our meeting tonight. First up, does any member of council have a conflict of interest or the appearance of a conflict of interest in regards to any item on the agenda? If so, please state it at this time.
No.
Mr. Boardman, Mr. Corbett, Mr. Nern, Mr. Corbett?
No.
Ms. Harris?
No.
No.
Mr. Phillips? All right. Moving on. Amendment and approval of the draft agenda. Do you have any questions or anything in there?
We want to make a change to it.
Yes, sir.
We want to move old business items 2 and 3 up to after G, the consent agenda, and before H, presentations.
Anything else? All right. Do I have a motion that we change this agenda?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anything else? All right. Let's move on. Action discussion resulting from the closed session.
There was no action taken from closed session.
All right. Moving on. General counsel discussion. Do we have anything? Go ahead, sir.
I've got one. I'd like to say on behalf of Sunset Beach and the Town Council, thank you to all the over 55 members of our local nonprofits and community members who volunteered to help clean up the tornado disaster area in Ocean Ridge over the weekend. It included Sunset Vision, Committee to Honor American Veterans, or Sunset Beach Turtle Watch, the Old Bridge Historical Society, Bird Stewards, and Calabash Elks Veterans Affairs Committee, as well as other Sunset Beach residents and neighbors. So thank you very much to all of them.
All right. No. Go ahead, Mr. Phillips.
On February 24th, I attended the long-term MOA between DWR and the Army Corps of Engineers. The main takeaways, this of course is a Wilmington district of the Army Corps, is that a dredging occurs in our inlets and waterways pretty much up and down the coast. Sure, it continues up further than Hatteras, but that's where the Wilmington district stops. And one item of note is that very often sand from in these inlets is placed on near shore beach surfaces, and quite often the towns are very pleased when that does occur. That's pretty much it.
Anybody got anything else?
Nope.
All right.
I've got one.
Go ahead.
Just to clear the record. This morning, 2 council members, Mr. Borman and myself, along with our assistant town administrator, our planning director, and our town attorney, had a telephone conference call with Representative Frank Eiler, who wanted to talk to us about the UDO amendments that we're going to be talking about today.
Anything
So
else?
that's it.
All right, moving on. Be our public hearings. First one up is the public hearing for UDO amendments, section 316, section 4101. Zendaya, you want to reach and see who wants to speak? Please. Do I have a motion to open the public hearings?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Moving on, when they come up, if they'll please state their name and address, and as all our other public comments, if I'm right, 3 minutes. They have 3 minutes to state their case or their comments or anything.
Clarification, are we doing both of these together? We have 2 public hearings.
You're going to do 2 public hearings, open and close both hearings, and then after the last public hearing is closed, then you will go into public comments for agenda items.
Okay, thanks. My name is Tyler Newman. I work for Business Alliance for a Sound Economy. We're a regional business advocacy organization. We have partners, including the Brunswick County Home Builders Association and Brunswick County of Realtors here in Brunswick County. As I said in my email earlier today, we've got concerns about the text amendment that's in front of you this evening. This has been discussed previously as a public notice text amendment. But if you look at the specifics, now it proposes to remove the public hearing at the planning board meeting for text amendments. That makes the second whereas on page 57 incorrect. All the discussion previously has been about public notice, and this removes a public hearing. Removing this public hearing is a significant public policy issue, especially in the age of COVID, when we have really more effort should be made for people to participate in the process, not just landowners and property owners, but taxpayers and citizens. The irony of this situation is that the town didn't actually hold a planning board public hearing about a text amendment that does away with planning board public hearings. We encourage your reconsideration of this issue. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Todd Rademacher, Riptide Builders.
I'm sorry, I didn't get that name.
Todd.
Todd Rademacher. There we go.
There it goes.
Todd Rademacher, Riptide Builders, 796 Sunset Boulevard. Riptide was provided you with several letters which comprehensively detail our objections to and concerns with the UDO amendments currently before the council. This amendment proposed eliminating the public hearing by the planning board for text amendments and other changes to the town zoning code. Numerous issues with this proposed amendment, both legal and substantive. This amendment, as proposed, is invalid insofar as not publicly advertised for hearing before the planning board and was not considered and or voted upon for recommendation by the planning board. It was not listed included on the January 7th, 2021 planning board meeting. It is not listed on any other agenda going back to November 2020, and there are no publicly available minutes showing that it was ever considered by the planning board. Given this, the amendment should be considered by the town council, should not be considered by the town council, and should not be voted on by the town council. Any vote is invalid insofar as the town has failed to comply with the requirements of the UDO. Coupled with the proposed amendment concerning public notice for planning board hearings on text amendments, approval of this amendment signals the town's intent to quell public participation and limit public output on the very matters which affect use of property, property values, future development, and the growth of the town. Municipalities throughout the state hold planning board meetings on a variety of matters, including text amendments. The town's proposal here is a significant departure from the norm, and one will put the town at odds with its peers. Furthermore, it is bad government. Public input should be promoted, not minimized. Section 5.03 to 5.05 and Section 6.04. This proposed amendment requires a special use permit for any multifamily development within the town, including the MR3 zoning district. Riptide vigorously opposes this proposal, which, coupled with the contemplated proposals to establish larger lot sizes for single-family subdivision, density for MR3, and the height for MR3 developments, will considerably curtail any future development.
Excuse me, Mayor. Those second comments need to be made at the next public hearing.
My apologies.
Any more to the first?
Good evening. I'm Elaine Jordan, General Counsel for the Coastal Companies. My office address is 131 Ocean Boulevard West, Holden Beach. First, just on a general note, I would like to echo the thanks to all of those people who came to Ocean Ridge Plantation and helped our neighbors, helped your neighbors during the tornado or shortly after the tornado. The work is still ongoing, devastation, the impacts to families. Thank you to all the support that you've had. On this specific text amendment, again, on a general note, we being stakeholders who have large land holdings that we've held for years within the town of Sunset Beach jurisdiction, we've been very concerned about, one, the piecemeal amendments that are going on, and number two, the lack of involvement and input sought from the stakeholders, the ones who are going to be the most affected. This one amendment dealing with notice and or hearing, depends on how you look at it, perhaps. In other words, my colleagues have already raised the legal issues associated with that. I think from a piecemeal approach, it shouldn't be considered by the town council. It should not be adopted tonight. Secondly, I will remind you, at your last hearing, when this was first brought to the council, some of you had concerns about the amendment that talked about that when amendments would be publicized in a newspaper, that they may be publicized and may be published. But there was absolutely no criteria, no standard as to when they would be published. When would the planning board decide? And I believe some of you had some very legitimate concerns on that very specific issue, discounting all the others, that because there is no standard, then what you're doing is you're setting itself up for discretion, which is not always good when you're dealing with public notice. And you're also talking about, you're setting itself up, frankly, for failure. And so I'm going to ask you to, one, postpone this, but number two, if you consider it tonight, to please not adopt it. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any more with public hearing number 1? Okay.
I move we close the first public
All
hearing.
right. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Next up is the public hearing UDO amendment, section 503 to 505 and section 604. Do I have a motion to open this?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Do we have anybody like to speak? Okay. Same thing. State your name. Got your 3 minutes. State your name and address, please.
Tyler Newman, Business Alliance for a Sound Economy. Again,
Yes, sir.
on the multifamily special use permit item, this really goes back to the piecemeal approach that Ms. Jordan just talked about. The number of different initiatives being considered by the town, ranging from height on the mainland to this multifamily special use permit issue, to changing the density in the MR3 district, all of those things really taken together compound on one another. Our concerns with the multifamily special use permit item is that you're essentially taking rights away from properties that currently exist in the town. The town's not going to have a by right district for over 2 units after this. I suspect there might be a fair housing issue with that. Most of the other jurisdictions that I work in really spend a lot of time looking at housing for all income levels and a variety of different housing types, as opposed to, setting up huge lot sizes, which lead to trees coming down and stormwater issues and all that other kind of stuff. Like the first issue, though, the text amendment in front of you is different than what was presented to the planning board. The planning board proposal was to amend the table of permitted uses. The new version, as it appears on page 60, is similarly incorrect, as it suggests approval of changes to section 5.03, 5.04, and 5.05, in addition to the table of permitted uses. Between the changes that you've heard tonight and the slate of other initiatives under discussion, we remain concerned for taxpayers, property owners, and the town itself. On a number of different occasions, we have reached out to town council to specifically encourage you to meet with major landowners and work collaboratively versus months of piecemeal text amendments that will severely impact property rights. Please table the text amendments before you this evening. Instead of moving forward with these actions, meet with the major landowners to work collaboratively in a way to move forward. By sitting face to face and discussing the issues, I think we can reach a beneficial solution for everyone. Thanks.
Thank you.
Todd Rademacher, Riptide Builders. The proposed amendment requires a special use permit for any multifamily development within the town. Riptide vigorously opposes this proposal, which, coupled with the contemplated proposals for lot sizes, density, and height, will considerably curtail any future development. As highlighted at the February 1st, 2021 meeting, a large number of stakeholders and property owners have been excluded from this process. We've sought public input and to sit down with the town to articulate our concerns about these proposals. At the February meeting, we believe that council agreed with the settlement and wished to sit down with us. However, before any such meeting could occur, council reversed course. The proposed amendment would significantly eliminate development potential, and subject parcels to a wholly unnecessary special use permit process. The viability of projects is at risk. Significant investment and capital expenditures are at risk. Multifamily simply is not a special use and should not be subjected to expensive, time-consuming processes. Moreover, this eliminates town control over these processes and exposes the town to considerable litigation. Riptide Developers implores you to work with the major stakeholders within the town of Sunset Beach and come to a viable solution that can work for both sides of the community. Thank you.
Good evening again. Elaine Jordan, General Counsel, Coastal Companies, 131 Ocean Boulevard West, Holden Beach. The amendment dealing for requiring special use permit. You have received, I know, multiple letters which outline the concerns for a quasi-judicial process being established that would be heard by the Board of Adjustments, who are unelected officials, for all multifamily, anything above 2 units. Again, the piecemeal approach, without even asking the input of your major landholders, is setting it up for failure. But more importantly, when you've got the landholders that are actively requesting to have input, please let us sit down. And we are being not just discouraged, but refused. That is a signal that should not be sent. When you read I've gone along, been reading a lot recently from the School of Government, the North Carolina School of Government, about special use permits and the other zoning process. And one of the things that struck me was a quote, was that a local government needs to focus on the land use impacts. The impacts should be identified, alternative measures to prevent those impacts discussed, and then the impacts of excluding various uses. Only then should, after all of that careful consideration, should you then make those changes. We as landholders, we want to know, one, what are the issues that you're having? Is it buffering? Is that what, would more buffering help? Is it simply nothing but density? I mean, what are the issues you're going to address? Are there alternative measures that we could propose that might give us a win-win situation instead of a litigation solution? We really want to sit down and have a productive dialogue. And we're asking for that and for you not to adopt this change tonight. Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
My name is Lawrence Hirschoff. I live at 219 Barony Place Drive in Sunset Beach. I believe that development is important to this town. Without it, we would just be a big old pine forest. I've come to speak tonight as a concerned resident of Sunset Beach. I've worked in real estate for over 10 years, and I taught real estate at the university level. And I am a member of the Board of Adjustment. I have always supported and frequently financed responsible real estate development. However, I grew up in New Jersey and I lived in Rhode Island for many years, and I have seen what ineffective government oversight can do and the harmful effects of uncontrolled development. I do not wish to live in an area prone to flooding because stormwater wasn't properly controlled. And I never want to sit through 2 changes of the light to get through an intersection again. You need only look at the congestion in nearby North Carolina beach areas, the gridlock experienced in many parts of Florida, to recognize that we have something to protect here in Sunset Beach. There is no reason for us to allow ridiculously dense developments that foster massive seasonal swings in residency and traffic. And it is essential that we protect public safety and provide significant green areas while we support thoughtful growth and development to build our tax base. I've seen many communities that require builders to provide financially through higher fees and through co-development, the effects of their property development will bring to an area, whether it is to build parks or schools, soccer fields, or public buildings, or to shoulder part or all of the infrastructure costs necessary to protect the public. It is clear that development cannot be a one-way street, where the builders make their money and create unmitigated future problems for the community. I fully expect that development will continue in Sunset Beach, and I look forward to the appropriate bodies ensuring that such development, first of all, is consistent with public health, safety, and general welfare. Secondly, that it meets the established requirements and specifications of our building codes. Third, that it is consistent with harmonious land use and zoning standards. And number four, that it will not materially injure the value or use of nearby properties. To that end, I believe it is essential that we not only protect our golf courses from being developed into residential or commercial properties, but that we also provide a mechanism to avoid the overdevelopment of multifamily properties. Overdeveloped multifamily properties foster seasonal ownership, absentee management, and excessive density that results in public safety risks. We must be protective of the essential characteristics of this very special town, because once we lose it, it will never return to the qualities that brought us all here. Thank you.
Sir, thank you. Anyone else?
Good evening. This is Bob Forrester. I live at 110 Crooked Gully Circle. I'm speaking in support of the change to the language of the UDO, recognizing multifamily use from a that permitted as a right to one requiring a special use permit. This is not, I take issue with some of the comments that have made. This is not a piecemeal approach, and it doesn't prohibit multifamily use as has been represented. The question of meeting with developers, I wanted to point out to the council that you are not making a policy change. The UDO, which was the land use plan, which was adopted in 2017, states, and I quote, "The town shall require that all multifamily developments be approved through the special permit process outlined in the UDO." The land use plan has a purpose, and it sets forth like 4 individual purposes that include a notice to the public, notice to property owners, and notice to developers of what the policies are. And the policy is clearly stated in the land use plan. You are not adopting a new policy. Additionally, I want to bring to your attention and emphasize that the paragraph G of section 16 of chapter 10 of the land use plan compatibility statement states, and I quote, well, I just quoted it, that it should be approved through the special use permit process. In chapter 10 of the land use plan also provides an important statement, and I quote, "Any official land use or development related decisions made by the town after adoption of this land use plan are expected to be consistent with both the policy statements in chapter 10 and the future use classification map and future land use guidelines in chapter 9. And I emphasize this as part of the quote, "Any official town decisions that are inconsistent with the policy statements, future land use classification map, future land use classification area development standards table must follow policy 27. And if substantially inconsistent, may require a land use plan amendment." Policy 27 states, and I quote, "Any official town land use and development related actions, namely rezoning, text amendments, special use permits, stormwater rules, etc., shall remain consistent with the policies adopted in the land use plan and any other applicable plan." Any town actions that are inconsistent with such plans shall require a statement from the town body approving such decisions as to why those decisions are necessary and in the community's interest, and how the negative impacts will be mitigated. Now, this policy from the, I'll end the quote, this policy places substantial emphasis on the provisions of the land use plan, and it's in keeping with similar statutory requirements in other states, which require that any deviations in the zoning and planning ordinances and regulations from the adopted land use plan may only be approved by a supermajority with the reasons stated for the change. By the adoption of the 2017 land use policy, there was notice to public, there was notice to all developers that
Need to be timed up, sir, when you,
in keeping with that quote that I had about the special use permit. And again, I emphasize, you're not making a new policy, that is the policy. And if you don't adopt it, then you're
Yes.
going to have to be required to change the land use plan.
time's up, sir. But thank you. Yes, sir. He finished it up. Okay. Anybody else? Okay. All right, thank you.
I move we close the public hearing.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Moving on to our next is our public comments on agenda items only. Do we have anybody? Okay. Moving on to our consent agenda. January 2021 special meeting minutes, February 1st, 2021 first regular meeting minutes, Planning Department, January 2020 report, Building Inspections Department, January 2021 report, Finance Department, January 2020 report, Stormwater Department, January 2021 report, Public Works Department, January 2021 report, Police Department, January 2021 report, and the Fire Department, January 2021 report. Does any member of council have any questions for any of these departments?
Not for me.
Everybody good?
Nothing.
All right. Do I have a motion that we accept these? Do I have a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? So, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? There's none? All right, thank you. Next up, we'll be moving on. We will be bringing in actual J, old business, number 2, an ordinance to amend UDO Article 3 and Article 4. Mr. Chad Stardowski, you have the floor. Stardowski. This Chad.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the board. Thank you for this opportunity to be before you tonight. First item, public hearing number 1, section 3.16, section 4.01. This public hearing is to hear, hold on. There we go. This application includes a modification to the Town of Sunset Beach UDO regarding the amendment of the rezoning procedures with the planning board required to advertise public notice for an amendment, rezoning, text change. At the duly held meeting of the planning board on January 7th, the board voted to recommend approval of the text amendment that would allow planning board to recommend decisions to the town council without having to publicly advertise unless it would be deemed necessary. If there's any questions before.
Anybody got any questions?
And I have Wes McLeod with the Cape Fear Council of Governments here to answer any questions, along with our town attorney Grady Richardson here as well.
Anyone have any questions?
I have a concern.
Go ahead.
Just making sure I'm on the right one. In Article 3.6, my concern is is there a check and a balance, a policy guide for the planning board in terms of when and under what criteria they use to decide whether to do a public hearing or do a public announcement. So with that, my recommendation is that on item A, a sentence be added that says the planning board will determine by majority vote whether the matter at hand merits that the planning board should hold at least one public hearing therein or not. In other words, the planning board should specifically discuss and address the issue. Does this issue that's under consideration, is it serious enough that, or of enough of magnitude and impact on the town that they should have at least one public hearing? And do that by a vote that's kept on a record as to whether to have a public hearing or not. The second point would be a similar statement under point B, that the planning board will determine by majority vote whether the notice of the amendment to the zoning code should be published or not.
So would you want that as a separate vote then? If they decided to table it and vote on that, so let's say we have a amendment come to them or rezoning come to them and say, let's table this so we can advertise it, and they vote on it so we move to the next meeting so we could properly advertise. Would you want a separate vote than that, or would that be suffice? Because ultimately you're making...
I really don't know exactly what the procedures are, but
Okay.
when the planning board is discussing an amendment or a change,
So
my
for-
question, my concern is that they should at least address, is this a major issue that we should hear from the town? Is this a major issue that we should publish and hold a public hearing on?
Yeah, that was one of the main things that was taken into consideration with this amendment, to leave it as, not take it out completely, but leave it at, to change the word shall to may.
Yeah, but it doesn't put any,
Correct.
it doesn't put any criteria, it does not hold anybody's feet to the fire.
Right.
To say,
I mean,
we need to
outside,
discuss this one, or we do not need to discuss this one.
and the gut instinct, or the board having the gut instinct to advertise, such as the one that's coming before on Thursday, we re-advertise for that. That would be the second part of this MR3 text amendment that would be coming, hopefully, depending on how planning board makes a motion to, if they make a motion to recommend or deny that to y'all, we did re-advertise for that. We thought that was big enough to have the wherewithal to, hey, let's advertise this again.
But what happens when you go away, when the personnel change, and we have a new council and a new planning board on there?
Hopefully,
You know,
Wes will
we
still be
have,
here.
you know, my concern is there a deliberative step in there where they say, okay, this is not a major issue, and we can do without?
And if I may, I
Sure.
just wanted to interject. Section 316 is only about adopting plans. This is Section 316, the public hearing is only about adopting,
Oh,
it's only about adopting plans. And so, you know, the recommendation to include Section 316 came as a result of the planning board meeting in which one of the members said, look, the intent here for us is to removing these requirements of the planning board, mandatory requirements, for several reasons. First being, you know, if there's something in there that we miss and we don't follow the ordinance, it's not a good idea. But second, you know, so that they can pass upon things to you with some expediency. That being said, they chose to leave the required notice for any rezoning, and then for text amendment, which is under section 401 C2, they changed from the shall to the may. And they noted that, look, for administrative type items, clerical things in the UDO, we don't need to advertise this, likely. But maybe more substantive things that deal with density changes or things of that nature, we should. If it is the pleasure of the board, or if there's a motion by Mr. Corbett, well, I would recommend that a procedure just be informally established on any of the staff reports that had a vote of the planning board prior to taking action, and not necessarily put it in the UDO. That you can certainly do that, but that way you're not, you know, That way you don't miss it. So, and it's in your ordinance. But there would be, on the agenda, for example, similar to how you guys have conflict of interest, there would be a standing policy on that agenda. Do we make a motion and vote on holding a public hearing prior to taking action on this? That's something that could be added. But I just wanted to point that out.
Well, my view is that something should be added to make sure that there's a clear discussion of whether to do the public hearing and the public notice. And I'm not aware, does the planning board have a set of operational policies, if you will?
Rules and procedure, yes, they do. But if it's a pleasure of the board to include this, in the UDO, I'd put it under Section 401. I just wanted to clarify that Section 316 is not about amending the ordinance; it's about adopting plans.
We have 4 other council members. What are their views?
So
Yeah.
my first question is, and I believe this may have been covered before, just to kind of clarify again, that this doesn't necessarily remove public hearing incompleteness. Major things would still come before the council. This is just allowing the planning board to operate in a more rapid fashion.
More efficiently. Yeah. And it still has to be, essentially, you're hearing this twice before council. One, to set the public hearing, and then like tonight, to hear the public hearing be held where you can make a motion and make a decision on it.
And then to get the other side of the story from considering the public comments that we've heard this evening, other towns in our area, jurisdictions and things like that, is it commonplace to have both the public hearing in the planning board and as well as the council meetings?
I can think of, off the top of my head, the only place that does that is a Brunswick County Planning Board, and they have special legislation to act on rezonings at the planning board level, which necessitates a public hearing inherently. But we would have to look up the ordinances, but I know of no place off the top of my head that requires a public hearing at the planning board level. That's a discretionary thing that is up to the local unit of government, and it is uncommon.
And so once again, we find Sunset Beach being a little bit of an anomaly. The next question is, if this text amendment were adopted, if it's not adopted, what's the delay in getting something to the council to be handled versus if the amendment is adopted?
I've gone back and forth with this. I've talked to Lisa, I've talked to Wes about this. If this was to not go through, I would, as a council, y'all set your own public hearings. I would take it upon myself as staff and the liaison from staff to the planning board to set the public hearings for them. That way, anything that can be held as a text amendment before them can be acted on and made a decision on at that meeting and properly advertised for that purpose.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
But what would the delay be? Because I thought I understood that if we didn't approve this, that it would result in having 2 public meetings. The planning board would have to have their discussion, have a public meeting, then come back again and rule whether they want to send it to council. Then we'd have to have another public meeting for council to make a decision.
So if they wanted to bring forth an amendment and staff did not set the advertising requirements, then planning board would be able to listen and discuss. It would then come back to them the following month where we would advertise in the paper correctly. They would be able to make a decision and a recommendation to the council. The following month, then council would set the public hearing. And then the following month, you are then at where we're at tonight, having a public hearing. So that's 4 months.
As opposed to 2 months.
2 to 3. Yeah. I mean, planning board made a recommendation on this on the 7th of January. So we're almost 2 months away from a recommendation from the planning board to potentially an adoption of a new text amendment.
So I think I would agree that to have some requirement or at least a way to show that there was some discussion by the board as to whether they want to hold a public hearing or not, that would be something.
Y'all as a board are definitely free to make that requirement and vote on that as a text amendment tonight, if y'all so pleased to do that.
Okay.
Anyone else?
Y'all could easily, this is an advisory board to the council. Y'all set the standards for that. Y'all are more than welcome to do that and impose the rules.
Okay. Any other?
Anyone else?
Jan? Charlie?
I personally don't feel we need to add anything to the issue we have before us tonight.
You got something? Go ahead.
Was someone going to answer?
I just made a statement.
Okay. Well, I don't have any questions, but I do have a few comments. I want to repeat again that we work for the citizens of this town. We don't work for developers. There were a couple of comments made. The most affected by this will be the developers. That's just not so. The people most affected will be the citizens of our town, and they're the ones we're looking out for. There was another comment about trees coming down. Well, go look at any of these developments around here going on, and they're clear cut. So I don't see how changing this is going to affect trees coming down. There was a mention of litigation. Don't threaten litigation. I don't think any of us are going to do well with that. That's all.
With that being said, do I have a motion that the council
Well,
adopt
let me make one,
proposed? Go ahead, Dan.
one more.
Go ahead.
I would be comfortable leaving it to the expertise of the planning department to provide the advice to the planning board on when and where to do public hearings and public notices that would go out. But at least for the duration, that would be something I would want to hear clearly, that there was consensus, in the staff report that comes before the council with the information that helps us make a judgment on where we want to go in the future. So I would be comfortable doing this without any adjustment to the amendment as proposed.
So,
That being said, do I have a
finish,
motion?
sir? I didn't mean to interrupt if I interrupted you.
No, I finished. I'm saying, so no changes, just their commitment to do it and make sure that they let us know that they have done it.
So again, do I have a motion to adopt the proposed amendment as amended?
So that being said, I'd like to make motion to adopt the ordinance to amend UDO Article 3 and Article 4.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Do I have any discussion? Any more discussion? All
I'm
in
sorry,
favor?
if I could clarify.
Go ahead.
That is a motion to approve the amendments as presented.
As presented, Article 3 and Article 4. Yes.
Excuse me. Lisa, could you read the motion back to us so we know exactly what we're voting on, please?
That's what I'm asking for clarification on.
Yes.
Yes.
So Jamie, if you will, Councilman Phillips, if you'll make your
I made a
motion again,
motion
please.
that we adopt an ordinance to amend the UDO Article 3 and Article 4 as written.
Is there a second?
There is a second.
Yeah, second.
There's no more discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Moving on to our next order of business, out of old business again. Number 3, an ordinance to amend Article 5 and Article 6. Mr. Chad, you have the floor again.
Thank you again, Mayor. The report and amendment is for this text amendment is a modification to the town of Sunset Beach UDO requiring the table of permitted uses in section 6.04 and the project review process in Article 5 at the duly held planning board meeting in January 7th. The board voted to recommend approval of the text amendment requiring all multifamily development proposals to be approved in accordance with a special use permit process. If y'all have any questions.
Anyone have any questions
Again, I have Wes McLeod
in
here with
regards
me
to this?
and Grady Richardson.
I'd like to start.
Go ahead, sir.
So, when I was running for office, there were some hot topics in the town. And the one that always came up consistently was development in the town, how to control it, how to have smart growth, and to not be overrun. Can't tell you how many times I've heard we don't want to look like Cherry Grove, we don't want to look like Myrtle Beach, things of that nature. Now, since I've been on council, I've learned that with the state statutes, it's hard for us as a town to manage the types of developments that occur within the town. And there were a lot of citizens who were in an absolute uproar that some things have gone in that they didn't agree with, that didn't see for their vision of the town, which I believe that vision is laid out very well in the land use plan and the mission statement. And so the way I see it is I see this UDO Article 5 and Article 6 amendment as a way that the town has a little bit of the ability to see the vision of the town in the future for them. It's not that I'm by no means anti-development or anti-business or anything like that. I just think it needs to, as much as the town can direct it, to have it be the right business and the right development within our town. And I see this amended ordinance, or this amendment, as a way to achieve some of that in the interim before having a larger rezoning effort. That's my stance on it.
Anyone else?
I've got a,
Go ahead, sir.
I have a general concern that our discussion started with MR3, and this amendment goes in to more broadly hit all multifamily units in any parts of our town. My understanding is we now have an administrative procedure where a developer, if they meet every one of the written requirements in the UDO and the various other codes in the county and the state, meet those criteria, we have to approve it.
Correct.
Is that part correct?
Correct.
Under the special use permit, it appears to me we have at the town the discretion to go one step further to make sure not only are all these boxes appropriately checked, but that broader consideration is given to make sure that the change, the development going in, fits in with our community, fits in with our objectives of the community, and enhances the overall sense of the community, as well as provide the development and the benefits. I'm trying to think through where a multifamily development within the terms that we have for multifamily developments, which are basically 35 feet high with a guideline that can take them up to 50, with guidelines for how it gets buffered against other neighborhoods, with guidelines on whether the perceived or real impact on property values gets hit, whether these things come into bear. And with the special use permit, all of those sort of subjective areas can still be accommodated to make sure that the goals of the town are met without the intention of preventing a development. The intention is to make sure that the development comes in and fits well within our community. Am I halfway correct or stating that correctly?
No, you're correct.
Is there anywhere along the line that we adopting these special use permit processes is drastically different than what happens in most of the other communities around? Don't most communities have some type of a standard where they can make sure that the developments fit conditions that are set, that the town can set, or what kind of discussion, rather than just being in a position we are, that if they meet the hacks, the check the boxes, then we have to accept it?
It's a broad spectrum, but your neighbors, town of Calabash, they approve multifamily, for example, through the special use permit process. They have one by right multifamily district. It's a relatively small area, but yes, there are other similar communities. I was looking while we were waiting here at the Ocean Isle Beach zoning ordinance. They use a special use permit approval process in some of their districts for something as simple as a tennis court. So yes. That being said, it's a matter of preference. This is a legislative decision. If it's something that you guys believe that would be an effective tool, then it should be pursued. It is important to understand what else is going on around in the region, but ultimately it's it's you guys' town. But I would say in doing this, you're not necessarily out on a limb here. And I don't know if Grady wants to add anything about the comments regarding, the process and, having the approval fit in with the needs of the town and so forth.
I don't really have anything to add to it. I'm unaware of any town, city, county that doesn't have special use provisions, conditional use permit provisions. You're not an anomaly by looking to pass this special use process amendment, despite what you've heard tonight. It puts in place, instead of it going before the planning board, it puts it in a quasi-judicial context in front of a board of adjustment. And it's a more controlled atmosphere where the applicant, developer, if you will, has to meet certain legal requirements for their application. If they satisfy those legal standards, the general and specific criteria for issuance of a special use permit, then the burden shifts to anyone who wishes to oppose it. They must oppose it with substantial material and competent evidence before the Board of Adjustment. If they do not do so, the Board of Adjustment is supposed to issue the permit. If the opposition submits substantial, material, and competent evidence, then at that point, the Board of Adjustment must make a decision based on the applicant presenting and meeting his prima facie case, and then the evidence submitted by the opposition, and make a decision based upon the record of what they've heard as to whether or not to grant the permit. Either losing side may appeal to the Superior Court. The developer would automatically have standing if they lost. Any opponents, if they lost in opposing the application, would have to first satisfy the court that they have standing sufficient to challenge it. Then if they satisfy the court that they have standing, then the court reviews the matter and decides whether or not the permit was properly issued. Conversely, the developer appealed a denial, and the court believed that it should have been issued. The court has the power to order the town to issue the permit. I don't see what the big uproar is about. I'm just a lawyer. I mean, it doesn't make any difference to me whether you pass the amendment or not. Quasi-judicial process, your Board of Adjustment will be very well educated between Wes and myself, Chad, Lisa, on standards for reviewing applications, quasi-judicial process, the legal standards involved, what they're to consider and what they're not to consider. Questions?
Go ahead, Mr. Mormon.
Question?
And John,
So-
there is a
Thank you.
provision regarding harmony with the land use plan. It is taken into consideration. So yes, it is not putting a stop to development, but it helps, it allows an additional set of review. Hey, does this proposal have some semblance to the things that are supported of the town of Sunset Beach?
And as I hear the discussion and what Mr. Richardson has said, you know, it sounds to me like there's not a particularly onerous burden that's being put on the developers to bring them in line, you know, so.
Which
I'm
makes you wonder why we've been getting lots of letters from attorneys that are representing the developers. There's been outcries in the public meeting that seem to be resisting something that looks like it's fairly common within other communities. What we have heard from the residents that have to live here, that there is a lot of concern about rapid development, things that are being done where the UDO might not completely reflect what the land use plan has said. So I think that this puts a little more control over what's being done. I think it's the right thing to do.
If you look at the current situation, if there was something submitted to the planning board, or if it didn't even get to the planning board, and it was a rejection of the application, then the developer would then have to appeal that decision to the town next level, and then after that, if they didn't like it, then they'd have to appeal it to Superior Court. This eliminates one of those two steps before the town. It puts it before the Board of Adjustment, which will be educated on how the process works, what the law says they have to do, and what they have to consider, make their decision based upon substantial material and competent evidence before them.
And I'll echo Grady and say that we already have scheduled for the March 10th meeting to meet with the Board of Adjustment to do a formal training by Wes McLeod with the Cape Fear Council of Governments.
And Grady, if you can.
And Grady, if he can be there. And Grady, spoke to us earlier today and said that anytime that you have a quasi judicial hearing, he will be there to advise the Board of Adjustments on how to proceed to make sure that we stay in line with the guidance and the provisions that are laid out before him to grant or deny a permit.
And he's well versed, given a recent case that was exactly about this.
Me personally, that I've gone through a handful of them as well, so I'm very familiar with the process.
I don't have any more questions.
All right. Anybody else got anything?
I'm good.
Go ahead, sir.
Another remark on the comments. One of the gentlemen talked about traffic and what it was like in, I think, New Jersey. Well, I was born and raised, learned to drive, and worked in D.C. for 40 years. And, when you're 16 and get your driver's license, it wasn't so bad. But every year it got worse. Well, I was lucky because I grew up driving in that and seeing the changes. The changes here aren't going to be good with all this extra traffic. Now, you can go back to when I moved here and started coming to council meetings. I've always been in favor of development as long as it's good development. A couple examples just in my neighborhood. These are 3 different builders. Having an overflowing dumpster with trash on the ground, never touched until I made a complaint. And they finally cleaned it up. I don't know if they had permission to have that dumpster on whoever's property that is. I would hope they did. Another one, parking, and 5, 6 cars and trucks parked blocking one lane of traffic. Another one, they weren't blocking traffic, but they were parked all over public space. and had material stored in public space. When the developers finish, they're finished, and we have to stay here. We're going to be the ones living here, not the developers. And our main concern has to be our citizens here. And it's it's not just the traffic. It's being able to find a parking place on the beach, which is hard already. All these people coming in, they're going to want to go to the beach, and they're welcome to the beach. But let's not make our problems worse than what they already are. I think, we need to pass this.
Anyone else? That being said, do I have a motion that we adopt this ordinance to amend UDO Article 5 and Article 6?
I'd like to make
As
a
written.
motion that we adopt the ordinance to amend the UDO, Article 5 and Article 6 as written.
Do I have a second? Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you, sir.
Mayor, board, thank you.
Yes, sir. All right, moving on, we'll go back to our presentations. Is our Paul Hostelmeyer, our tornado response recognition. Go ahead, sir.
All right, good evening. There's been a few comments in the last couple of meetings about the tornado on February 15th in the Ocean Ridge neighborhood. We had several crews, engine crews, deputy chiefs respond in there to help with
Yes, sir. Go ahead, Greg.
structural
Thank you, sir.
collapses with injuries and entrapment. I just wanted to recognize some of those folks that not only assisted in Ocean Ridge, but also responded to cover other engines in the town of Sunset Beach, responding to EMS and fire calls. So I listed some of the on-duty members on the staff report for you. But most importantly, I'd just like to say I'm proud to be the fire chief in Sunset Beach, and I'm proud of the work our firefighters do on a daily basis and the high level of performance they have in chaotic situations like the tornado. So I ask that you join me in thanking them for all they do daily and on the big incidents.
Could you be so kind as to read into the record the names
Sure.
and let us know who it is that?
The members that responded in the Ocean Ridge Plantation: Deputy Chief Childers, Deputy Chief Adams, Captain McDonald, Lieutenant Gaskins, Firefighter Fulmer, Firefighter Rare, Firefighter Matthews, and I also mentioned in here Firefighter Carr that is a full-time member with us, but responded with Calabash that night. And then there's also a list of our off-duty personnel and paid on-call staff that came back to cover the town that evening: Captain Bennett, Lieutenant Graham, Firefighter Kramer, Firefighter Cook, Firefighter Davis, Firefighter Bruno, Firefighter Gimbel, Firefighter Rockledge, Firefighter Tedesco, and last but not least, Public Works Director Dustin Graham came in to help us move some trees around that were blocking roads.
I would like this to be placed in every person mentioned here and as a commendation in their personnel files. Is this the right place to do that?
Sure.
It sounds like a good place to me.
Yeah, we can do that. Right.
Thank you.
All right.
And well done.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Next up will be our dredging project update. Mr. Robert Neal from Moffett and Nichols. You have the floor, sir.
Good evening, council. Here tonight with a brief presentation. Just for a moment. Here tonight with a brief presentation about the status of the dredging project, and is that presentation? And what I want to do is just been asked to just talk about the options from this point where we are in the construction process. The project was bid out in February. We anticipated having permits by February 11th so that we could go to construction this year and complete the project prior to March 31st or prior to April 1st. That did not happen, but as we are right now, we lacked a state permit, a state CAMA major modification to the permit, a 401 water quality certification from the Department of Water Resources, and the Corps of Engineers individual permit. 2 of those items have been issued, and I should say, as I'm jumping in here, we'll go ahead and go to the next slide, please. I'll back up a little bit and try and stick to the agenda. There we go. So, kind of jumped a little bit ahead there. I apologize. The items we want to discuss tonight is related to South Jinks Creek, the feeder canal in the Bay Area, maintenance dredging or navigation dredging. I want to talk about the current permit status to what we anticipated to where we're at. And then options moving forward in related to the potential of construction this year. This year being prior to April 1st. And then I'll open up to answer any comments or questions that the council may have. Next slide, please. So now catching up, we had 3 major permits that were.
Slide didn't change yet.
And I'll talk through a little bit here, but we had 3 pieces of 3 permits that we anticipated to be issued prior to February 11th. We advertised the project back in January in hopes that from conversation with the agencies that the permits would be issued by February 11th and then would allow construction to be completed for the full project this year. We did minimize that project to a substantial completion date or substantial completion quantity from the 49,300 that cubic yards that are out there in the 100-foot wide channel down to a 75-foot wide channel and less yardage. So there we are now back to this slide. So moving through that process, we did open bids on the February 11th, had a parent low bidder. That contract has not been awarded because we were waiting on permits to ensure that we could actually do some work this year that would be productive and beneficial to the town. As of today, we do have 2 of the 3 permits that we were waiting on. Again, we were waiting on a CAMA major permit modification. We were waiting on a Division of Water Resources 401 water quality certification, and we were waiting on a Corps of Engineers individual permit. 2 of those items we have received. The CAMA major modification we received on February 18th. On the Division of Water Resources issued their water quality certification on February 24th. The Corps of Engineers has indicated that we will have a federal permit, individual permit by Friday, March 21st. We are pretty confident that they will meet that deadline. However, we cannot guarantee that they will meet it, and their timing nor their decision is guaranteed.
Is that March 21st or March 12th?
Well,
March 12th. March 12th. So it's a week from 2 weeks from today, pretty much. So it's March 12th. We are confident that we'll have a permit decision. However, it's not guaranteed. The staff is moving forward, and we expect to see something, but we can't guarantee it. And that's all.
This is the decision on the permit that at the end of last year, we were expecting to take place.
Yes.
In early or mid-January, early February, thereabouts.
Yes, we expect to have it. We thought we'd have it by February 11th of this year, and then we're still waiting.
And that's also the same one we thought we'd have 2 Fridays ago, correct?
It is, yes.
Yeah.
And that didn't come through either. So
It did
we
not.
don't have any kind of guarantee on this at all, right?
No,
I
we
mean,
do
what
not.
they tell us is we in control and we'll run it when we want to, basically.
Yes, that is correct. That's what they are telling us, that they are pushing forward to get it, but we can't, we see their track record and we know where they're at, and there has been progress, but again, there is a risk. There is a risk for the town to move forward without that permit in hand.
On that before, when you spoke the last time, because I actually asked you when we was talking about financial and all, but I listened. If I'm wrong, correct me.
Yes.
But you basically told us at that last meeting, that Friday that was coming up, that if we didn't get the permit in, the window was not really big enough to even get any project going in the spring session. Is that correct?
The window is not big enough to do the project we anticipated. So we started off with the 100-foot wide channel.
And it went to 75.
Now, yeah, it went to 75. So no, at this point, I do not expect that we could even do a 75-foot wide channel at this point. There is time, if the stars aligned, I can't tell you there is time. I can say there is time to do it. I cannot say that the mechanical equipment will work.
Yeah.
And that the weather will allow us to do
Yeah,
it.
I think, if I'm not mistaken, you told us about 16 days of good working is what you figured it would take to do the project at hand.
That is the minimum. Yes,
Yeah.
that is perfect
Minimum,
conditions.
At least 16 days.
Yes, and
And
that
as of
is,
right now, we're working in a 30-day period virtually.
well, he couldn't start till the 15th, so we're at 15 days.
So we're real close.
Yes, so we are very close to a 75-foot wide channel. We will not make.
Yeah.
We absolutely will not make. At this point, kind of, I think the best we could hope for was a 40-foot wide channel. And I'd say 35-foot channel is the best we could hope for.
And that's even a small amount. That's not even a third of what we were anticipating to begin with if things would have
That is
aligned
correct.
up, right?
That is correct. If we,
Okay.
yes. And that's where, in the options, so with those.
Do you have a sense, before you go into the options, do you have a sense of what it is that's holding up the Corps of Engineers from, obviously, they're not making a timely decision, but let's say making a final decision?
Were they waiting for anything from us?
No, we've been working together. It's, workload is all I can answer that to. It's, we were told in mid-December that it was a 30-day process from the time we gave them our substantial completion of our comments. We responded appropriately. Those responses are in. They have not. We are sending additional information at this point on a daily to help them. But as far as their permit, it is to add background to their document. But I'd say no, they're not necessarily waiting on us.
So then this is information that they're asking for new?
Not new. It's they're asking for, as such, at this point, they've asked for the construction cost that we put in our alternative analysis is spread out through the alternative analysis. So we gave the construction of alternative 1, the construction cost of alternative 2, the construction cost of alternative 3. They ask if we can compile that into one table and send it to them so they would expedite their process. So it's wanting us to I guess, more concisely present the data or information that we've already provided is what they're asking for us at this point.
Have you submitted to the Corps all of the questions and the data that they requested in their January 31st, 2020 letter?
Yes.
And they've accepted it as satisfactory?
Yes. And so we are confident there will be a permit decision by March 12th. We are not, we are confident what that decision will be, but it is not guaranteed. There could be surprises. But with that, looking at the options moving forward, as council knows, there is a contract. Bids have been open, and we have not taken action on that bid, whether to award that contract or how to move forward with that contract. And so there are 4 options that I have presented as to what the council could do at this point and what risk would be associated what risk would be associated with that decision. The first option is simply to begin negotiations with the contractor to delay the project to November 16th. That really removes the risk of trying to construct this year. There is not enough time to complete the project without an extension into April, which I am not confident at all that would be received. But so there is not enough time to complete the project this year, being prior to April 1st. So we could begin negotiations with the contractor to simply delay the project till November 16th so that all permits would be in place. It would be a smooth transition, so to speak, as far as on November 16th, they could essentially start work. We would have that, being able to notify the property owners, be able to notify potential renters and such. It would be well known what was going to happen.
Would that include awarding the bid, accepting the bid, or awarding the contract, designating a contractor?
It could be, the option as I have it laid out is that we would work with this contractor. Option one is to work with this contractor to start work in November. There would be no change in the contract price. He would just delay work until November. So that would...
So we would essentially award him the contract?
Yes.
Award them the contract with the condition that they start on November 16th?
Yes, they would award the contract, notice to proceed November 16th.
This would be for the 100-foot?
For the full channel, yes. 100-foot channel, 49,300 cubic yards, plus any shoaling that occurred between now and then.
And it would only require one mobilization. It would not have the additional cost if we tried to split it up between two seasons.
Correct. There would be no additional cost to the contract. It's simply the same contract as bid out and priced. Simply work would begin in November instead of now.
Okay.
If it
Sorry, go
were
ahead.
delayed, is there any chance, any way, anyhow, that any of these permits could be rescinded and we'd find ourselves back where we are right now?
Not by delaying it. So delaying it would have no impact on that. There is a objection process to every permit that's issued. It's 20 days or 28 days or whatever it is. But so that is in play now.
Right.
But as far as the permits being rescinded just because we waited until the end of the summer, until November, that process would not change the permit at all.
I got a question for you.
Yes, sir.
You just sat there, you just told me that, make sure, if I'm wrong again, tell me, but I don't think I am. On this deal about going to November, you said the bid that we got now would be the price come November.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. Well, the bid that we got now, that you told me last time, is only for 75% or 75 foot instead of the 100 foot. So does that mean the project will be dropped down to 75% then? Or will it go to 100, and will we see an increase in price there?
No, there'll be no increase in price to go to 100 feet. The bid was for 100 feet. There was a substantial completion clause in there that could be removed, and just substantial completion means the contractor could mobilize, could only move 75% of the work. He could only do, if he did 75% of the work, he would be credited with he would be awarded his mobilization and demobilization clause. There'd be no claims. He could pick up his equipment and go home. And he would be paid and as if he, for the work that he did, mobilization, demobilization, and the cubic yards that he moved. If he comes back in November, the bid price stays the same. The bid price is for the full project, for the full 100% of the project, 100 feet wide, 49,300 cubic yards. So that dollar amount does not change. We would simply say substantial completion would be the full channel width. He's already here. He's already mobilized. He's not, there's no argument there, no problem there as far as doing additional work. So it's, the price stays the same. Substantial completion, he would be required to complete the entire project, 100-foot wide channel, instead of saying I can go home after I do 75 feet.
That 75-foot clause was put in, as I understand it, with the idea if we're going to try to force this project to be done before the 31st of March.
Yes,
there's questions there, a lot of variables as to whether they really didn't think they could do the whole 100 feet. Is that correct?
Yes, we wanted to encourage bidders, and to do that, we wanted to reduce the risk on their side and give them a project that we felt was substantial enough to mobilize them, but also something that they could complete. If we charge liquidated damages on, I think $1,000 a day. So if they came in and did not finish, if we bid the project to do the full 100 feet this year, 50,000 cubic yards, I'll say just for rounding, the 100-foot wide channel, and they did not complete it, then they would have to pay liquidated damages and remobilize next year, next November. So we said, well, let's be fair to the contractor and say, okay, we're going to we want to do something this year. And the best we can ask for on the time given was a 75-foot channel. If they were to complete the 100-foot channel, then they would be paid, for the bid price. They would be paid for everyone would be, that would be a bonus. That I saw that as a bonus. They would complete the work. They would do more than required. But the price would not increase with that additional yardage. They just would get paid for it. So it's, we reduced the substantial completion requirement that relates to liquidated damages. If they met that substantial completion date, that requirement, that substantial completion, they would not be charged liquidated damages for not completing the work on time. At this point, we would renegotiate what that date, if we wait till November, there would be a new date that substantial completion must be achieved by, and there would be a new requirement for that substantial completion. The substantial completion would be the full channel width of 100 feet and 50,000 cubic yards, and there'd be a new date associated with when that would have to be completed, but the cost would not change, or at least the cost is not proposed to change. They would just, because the cost is for the full bid amount.
Option 2, if the contractor does a 30-foot wide channel in South James Creek prior to this summer, the remaining work in South James Creek would be completed in November 2021. This option would cost the town at least an additional $200,000 to remobilize the contractor in November.
Yes, that's option number 2, is to, with our understanding that the permits, if the town is willing to accept the risk of the permits may be issued, we are confident they will be, but there is still that risk, that the permits may be issued by March 15th, and chose to mobilize the contractor, we would aim for a 30-foot wide channel, and that is to achieve some dredging this year. Now, the risk in that is it is a aim for. There is no substantial completion. There is no guarantee that there's no guarantee that that any channel would be formed. There's only the contractor would have to turn on the dredge and move some sand, and he would be paid for mobilization. That mobilization is $550,000 by the bid price. If we required him to, if he did not finish the work, if he did not do any more than that and came back, we would ask him to come back in November, or if we ask him to come back in November, he would be paid an additional $200,000 just to come back. And then he would finish the work for the bid price. So it would be an additional $200,000 for that second mobilization, which would occur in November.
But if the first mobilization is over $500,000, how is it only $200,000 for the second?
Because he'd be keeping his pipeline, he'd be keeping his equipment local. He has made arrangements in the area to keep them over the summer. Hydraulic dredges in North Carolina can't really work in the summer, so he'd be keeping that equipment here, so he would not have to mobilize from his home port to here. Would not have to. Also, pipeline. He's bringing pipeline in 50-foot sections. He could fuse that. It's going to be plastic pipe. So he would fuse that pipeline here into 500 or whatever foot sections he wanted. Generally, it's 500 feet. That could be rafted away and saved and not cut. So over the summer, he would store that 500-foot sections of pipeline, so it's less work to reassemble. As opposed to when he's bringing it in now off his yard, he's got it out back, loaded up on the barge in 100-foot sections or 50-foot sections, and then come and fuse it together. Okay. So it's a matter of, it's the convenience he has and knowing he would come here, or expecting that he would come back here. He stored that equipment here.
Would there not be some charges from the property owner for storing that equipment on the property owner's land?
That's built into the 200,000. He's in charge of all of that, where he keeps his property and how he rents it, and that's all his
We
responsibility.
have 2 bidders.
We have one successful bidder, though. We're only negotiating with one bidder at this point. So the second bidder was not the apparent low bidder, and we do not have the authority to negotiate with that bidder until we can say this bidder's.
We have to go with a low bid, what you're saying.
We have to negotiate
Who
with a low
meets all
bidder.
the requirements.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Mr. Neal, in all due respect, going back to what I asked a while ago, if I'm not mistaken, I mean, we got minutes and we have also the video to go back to it.
Right.
But I asked you about, because you was talking about, you said 2.2 was what you was projecting for the whole project.
Yes.
But then you said, but they come in low at 1.58, 1.585, I think is what you told us. And then I asked you about that, and I said, so we got it at 100, or was it, no, we bid it at to the 75. So in my mind, the bid that we sending with, the one, whatever it is, the 1.5,
Right.
1.5, was for 75, not for 100.
That was, I understand that, your comment there, and you are correct. That was the conversation. I tried to correct that afterwards. I stepped away from the microphone and came back because I misunderstood your
I just
question.
wanted to make sure I didn't miss
No,
it.
you
I
were
thought that's
correct.
what you told me that, and that's why I wanted.
Yes, I did say that.
And that's what I was saying. So when we go back in, if this goes into November, like this option 1 was passed, if permits come through and it goes into doing that,
Yes.
this 1.5 would be for the 100 foot. It would
Yes.
not be for 75.
It would be
foot.
for the 100-foot.
Okay, I just wanted that clarification. Thank you.
Yes.
And just adding to that clarification though, what I understood you to say, that bid was for 100%, and if they only did 75%, then that, from that 1.5 million, they would reduce the price to actually cover the 75% of what they
Yes.
what they pumped.
Yes. So the bid is for the full amount,
Yeah.
100% of the material.
Yeah.
And I misspoke last council meeting and did not even do a good job of clarifying it. But so the bid amount is for 100% of the volume, the cubic yardage. If they only removed 75% in order to meet substantial completion, they would be paid 75% of the bid amount for cubic yardage. So the only way they get paid more than this bid amount is if they remove more cubic yardage, if they're shoaling that comes into the template. So this is for the 100%, 100% of the work, 100-foot wide channel, 49,300 cubic yards.
I have a question about that. In your pre-bid meeting, one of the things that says that under measurement and payment, C, only material removed from within the dredge template shall be credited for payment. No consideration will be made for material removed outside of the dredge template or over dredge. If that company should do that, is that not a violation of the permit?
That is a violation of the permit. And we would not pay for a violation of the permit, nor would we be responsible for that violation.
And what would be the remedy? Just a fine?
We report it to the state. We make the state aware of it.
But what remedy would they have if they dredge way too much? What
At-
remedy is available to the environment?
Some
Should
of
they make a terrible mistake?
that can be up to $10,000 a day. They generally work in fines. Yes, I don't. There could
$10,000 a day doesn't correct the mistake.
correct. No, that is the state. I mean, we don't impact that. We do not. We would put it on their record as far as what they did, and the town could reject them for future work because they overdredged substantially. But as far as dealing with permit violations, our responsibility is to let the regulatory agencies know about it so that they can handle it accordingly.
Thank you.
These contractors, that's what they do for a living. They dredge.
Right.
They're
They don't-
professionals. So I would think the chance of them substantially over dredging would be almost nil.
No, they don't. With moving, the more material they dredge, the more work they have to do. So they want to only work for what they get paid for. And I mean, we've worked with these. I mean, it's their livelihood. If they do a bad job, then we don't want them back. The town doesn't want them back,
And they get fined.
and they get fined. But so that is the option number 2 is if the town was willing to assume the risk to move forward and try and build something this year. That is again, no guarantees for the contractor's work. So there is a risk there of at least $200,000 a day. There's also a standby time, talked to the contractor today of $15,000 a day. If he mobilizes and brings his equipment on site and the permits are not issued, for each day he waits on the permit is $15,000 a day for his equipment and men and personnel to be waiting. So there's additional risk there that's why I did not have that number at the time that I wrote this, but that's why it at least $200,000 for that remobilization.
So there are a lot of downsides for option number 2.
There is risk involved, yes, considerable risk.
Risk and cost.
I don't think I'm willing to take that risk.
Understood. And that's why I don't want to present what's out there.
Yeah, option 2 should be off the table.
Let's go to option 3.
That's easy. So option 3 is simply delay the decision tonight. We anticipate that the permit could be issued as early as Wednesday of this week. So if we delayed 2 days, we would have that information in front of us. We are on the way down here. We talked with staff, obviously after this was issued. I don't think we're going to have any more information on Wednesday than we have today. We are, again, very confident the permit's going to be issued. It won't be issued by Wednesday. So, I mean, I would suggest, especially if we're taking option 3 off the table, option 2, if we take option 2 off the table, there's really no reason to come back Wednesday and talk about, we're not going to have substantial information different than we do tonight.
So 3 gone too then. Yes. Basically.
And then option 4 is we simply cancel the contract. You could rebid the contract, combine with mechanical dredging, combine it as one total project. I think that is an option, but it creates such a large contract for monetarily wise for the bid price that local contractors would not be able to bid it. They can't bond it. These projects have to be bonded for the full contract price, and the smaller local guys cannot do that. So you are separating them from the prospective bidders. But that is, you would get in a larger company to do the work.
But with that low price coming on what we just done, we only had 2 people bid. Was that right?
We had 7 people interested.
But you only had 2 that actually submitted bids.
Yes.
So you basically you're just saying those 2 right now. Or if it's bigger, you're gonna have a bigger contract coming in. One of them was a local in North Carolina. The other one, if I'm not mistaken, was from somewhere out of state. Is that not right?
The contact was in North Carolina, so he was local. The equipment, yes, he was renting some local equipment and bringing other equipment in from Louisiana. Yes.
So then under option 1, would the same contractor bid on the rest of the project or no?
He could. I'm not sure what we could. Well, let me say here. I believe the contracting laws would not allow us to change order that work in. In other words, negotiate directly with him for that additional work because it was not advertised. But if we bid it out as a separate contract, yes, he would. I expect he would bid on it. It would be within his threshold to bond.
But it could be someone else as well.
And other people would bid on it too. And I will say for option 4, it is council's decision. During the bid process, I stated that my recommendation would be not to do that because we did bring these contractors in and they were interested and we took their time and they did give us attention to the project. So my recommendation would be not to do option 4, which would be to cancel the contract because this contractor took the risk of being here. And now it is council's decision, of course, but I made that statement to the contractors and I have to stand by it that I would recommend against that. But
Well, you're creating a whole kind of new mess, if you will, if you cancel one and combine them all together. You know, it seems to me to make sense. We have one contract in hand that's a particular type of dredging. What do you have, mechanical and what's the other one?
Hydraulic.
And we've got the hydraulic in hand. And then a separate set of equipment, separate set of machinery, separate timelines for assembling, separate places for taking care of the disposal. It's a completely different separate project. And I myself can't find a compelling reason to try to combine them both together.
Yes, and I just, as I said, just want to put the options out there. But and that would.
So can we? Okay, my inclination is option one. Can we make that decision on option one? Award the contract to the lowest bidder. Conditional that obviously he's not going to do anything. That bidder is not going to do anything until we have permits.
Correct.
So we incur no cost with that. And then that bidder begin work in November. And that takes care of the decision process. It's done. Then the next bet is once we get the permit, we go ahead and start the process of going out for bids as a separate action. Is that right, Lisa? Good morning.
He's actually better than I am to answer that
Okay,
question.
but that,
Going out to bid for the mechanical work.
I mean, and we could, assuming the permit came in this week, next week, we could then, at our next set of meetings, start the process of initiating the bidding process.
Yes.
So are you suggesting that we would do it contingent upon the issuing of the permit or wait for the permit?
No, I'm saying we make a decision now for option one for the hydraulic dredging.
I got you.
That we will soon to get the permit for. But just a contingent in there that we have to get the permit before it starts.
Of course.
Before we incur any cost on that.
So under that scenario, if the permit's never issued, what risk is there to that?
I would probably, instead of saying, I would probably just delay the decision. There's no risk. We would not issue the award letter until we have permits in hand. If council says move forward, we will wait on the permit before we issue the award letter, so council would not sign that, or the council could direct us. I should say the council could direct us not to award the permit, not to award the contract until the permits are received.
That's what I mean by conditional. Then you incur the condition, not the contractor.
Yes.
Yes.
Let me ask a question for clarification on my part to make sure I'm understanding this right. By accepting the bid that you got now, that is just for that one section that you had named out, which is the feeder canal, the Bay Area, and the South Jinks Creek.
No.
It's just South Jinks
No,
Creek.
just
South Creek.
Just South Jinks Creek.
Okay, so you said if we don't bid it out again, if we just accept this, and then we come back in November saying that if we have the permit and we was gonna start the project, this same guy that's got this is not necessarily gonna do the rest of the work.
Not necessarily, no.
Okay, that's what I want to make sure of, because I know from a business standpoint, he could get this, and then when that comes up, he could be high. So everything will be rebidded on all the other stuff, correct?
Yes.
This is just for this one particular project.
Yes.
Okay, I just want to know that. Thank you.
Yes.
Mr. Mayor?
I don't want to delay dredging even one day. But, I mean, this has been a 6-year ordeal. I don't think I'm okay with awarding a contract for them to start in November. I don't even want to think about trying to do part of it now. But, I mean, Carolina Beach got their permit and were dredging in 3 years. And here we are on year 6. I gotta wonder.
Oak Island starting in April,
Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead, Councilwoman.
and that's our project. But yes, understand.
Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead, Councilwoman.
I have a number of questions, and I would respectfully request the council's patience while I ask these questions, if I may.
Yes, ma'am, go ahead.
Okay. My questions are about these bidders, not necessarily about the dredging project per se. Has Moffett Nichols ever used either one of these two bidders to complete a project?
Not to complete it, we've used Jonathan, the coastal dredging, Jonathan Yop, as a sub. He's been a sub on a project.
Was that project similar to this Sunset Beach project?
His portion was not. The project was. The project was New River Inlet, dredging of New River Inlet, and beach placement. He was a subcontractor on that particular project.
Wasn't the New River Inlet project overseen by the Corps of Engineers?
No, it was not. It was overseen by Coastal Planning and Engineering.
Was the project completed satisfactorily?
Absolutely.
Okay, are you aware that there are no listings for Next Generation Companies, LLC, with the Secretary of State in North Carolina or Louisiana?
We require them to have a contractor's license in the state of North Carolina, so we did not check Louisiana. They admitted, per the contract, they have the ability to submit a contract if they can provide written evidence or certification or agreement or promise that they will provide that contractor's license or obtain that contractor's license prior to contract award. And we gave them 10 days prior to contract award. So yes, we know and noted on their bid tab that they did not submit a North Carolina general contractor's license or contractor's license, which would mean they would not be listed with the secretary or the state. We did not check Louisiana and really had no.
So that means we really only have one bid. Is that not correct?
No, there were two bids. He met the contracting requirements and stated that he would provide that worker's license, that contractor's license. So that bid met the requirements of our bidding documents.
Are you aware that the 10 Kimmery Street address for Next Generation Companies is a vacant lot in Lexington, North Carolina?
Again, that is not necessarily, I know that no, I'm not aware of that. We did not make it down that far. And as far as checking his bid, he was not a low bid.
So we don't know if we have a legitimate contractor.
Well, Next Generation was not the low bid, so we're not really working
We
with.
have only got one bid if he's not a legitimate contractor. Do you think the attorney for this town and for this Sunset Beach board should vet the bidders before a contract is signed?
That's really the council decision.
I personally think he should. Do you think the bid from Next Generations is a legitimate bid?
It met our contracting requirements.
Okay. Do you think we should have waited until the Army Corps of Engineers responds to our permit request before we requested bids?
We did not sustain the town to any risk in moving forward, any additional risk for that. The town, so I was moving forward as instructed by the town.
Okay, getting back to the jobs, what previous jobs has each contractor done? Do you have a list of jobs that each of these contractors have done?
No, again, we recommend these contractors based on our experience. We can't ask for previous experience. We can obviously do that. Coastal dredging was the low bid, and from personal experience, I was the one on that project. I feel that he's going to give it 110%, and I would recommend him to any project, or that company to any project.
I'm pretty sure I know the answer to my next question, but what feedback do we, the town, have from contracting previous dredge communities where each of these companies has successfully completed work? I personally would like to know that. I would like to know where these companies have worked and done a good job, just as if I were hiring an employee to work for this town.
Right.
Hi, excuse me for
I
interrupting.
requestfully ask to be allowed.
Just one point. You keep talking about both companies. Next Generation is out of it.
If we only got one bid, how can we legally award a bid? You got two companies that they accepted as bidders.
Well, there's, if I may, the North Carolina law allows on the initial attempt to have 3 bids before you can award. We did not receive any bids the first time. We received 1. After you rebid, you can, under North Carolina law, you can award to one single bidder.
Okay, how can we do due diligence for our town without these answers?
If there's additional information that the council would like, I'd be happy to research that or to bring that to
I
you.
think we need some more information.
And
I
I would-
really do.
I think we've had 6 years of questions and answers.
Okay. It is our fiduciary responsibility to ask the right questions, listen to our taxpayers' questions and concerns. How can we proceed without a permit approval and the answers from the Corps? If we approve a bid and the Corps denies approval to dredge South Jinks Creek or sets different widths and/or depths, what are the legal and financial consequences and responsibilities for this town?
If that were to occur, then there would be negotiation with the contractor. Obviously, we're not going to recommend that if we're not extremely confident that that will not occur, and that's where we're at. That is.
Could you clarify, Jan, could you repeat that question? I didn't quite understand.
If we approve a bid and the Corps denies approval to dredge South Jinks Creek or sets different widths and/or depths, what are the legal and financial consequences and responsibilities for the town?
If it were just widths and depths they changed, the contractor would be paid off cubic yards that they moved. There would be no risk in that. If there are different conditions in the permit that require the contractor to do work, to perform his work differently than what the contract documents that we gave him and he put his price on, he would have the ability to change that price.
Okay, I have a last statement.
I should say claim, not ability. He would have the claim to change that price.
Based on the information I have, it is my opinion Next Generation Companies, LLC, is not legitimate, and it makes me suspicious of the entire bidding process. We should not reward the contract until the Army Corps of Engineers responds, and we should vet the bidders before going forward. This project is too important to make mistakes, especially rushing the bidding process. Thank you.
Are we rushing the bidding process?
as I understand it, we're waiting till the permit is received to issue the award of the contract. Is that correct?
I think John's question was, if we rushed the bidding.
Have we rushed the bid?
I mean, it's only taken us 6 years, so.
The bidding process was conducted as we generally conduct bidding processes. There was a shortened time frame, and we did space it out, anticipating that we'd only get one bid. So we did time the bidding process so that we could, if stars aligned, have a project this year. But that's typical for any project we bid out. We look at the timing, and so I would hope that the due diligence was done. I believe the due diligence was done, and we.
I agree with that.
Is Coastal
I
fully
agree.
licensed
Yes.
and reputable? Moffett and Nichols has experience working with them.
Yes. Well, I have experience
You have
working with them.
experience.
I was with a different firm at the time.
At this point, you're looking for a recommendation from us on one of these 4 options, basically on how we'd like to proceed.
Yes.
Yes.
No, I know this is just another attempt to delay this further. And
Come on.
you can send emails and accuse the other council members of malfeasance or whatever you want to call it. And to me, it's just a bunch of crap.
I'd like to make a
Moving
motion.
on. Go ahead.
I'd like to make a motion that we adopt option 1, which would be awarding the contract to Coastal Dredging with a start date of 16 November for the full amount of the dredging targets, and with the understanding that Moffett and Nichol will hold on to the actual contract, the actual bidding award, until such time as we have the Corps of Engineer permit and conditions, if they're in there, have been resolved.
Second.
Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
Didn't hear you.
Thank you very
All right,
much.
Thank you. Yes. Moving on
Thank
to our
you,
town,
Robert.
town administrator report.
Thank you, Robert.
Go ahead, Ms. Lisa England, our assistant.
Thank you, Mayor. I've just got a couple of short things for you. Public Works Director Dustin Graham did go through the 40th Street conversion bid project, and we received no bids. The excuses he was receiving from the contractors that we normally work with are time frame, labor restraints, and the workload of the contractors they've got more business than they can do right now. So Dustin plans to rebid this in the summer for a fall winter project, and will probably include more walkways than just the 40th Street. So it would be a bigger project that we would hope to be able to grab a contractor's eye on that.
That would be something we go through in our budget talks.
We would go through this with the bid process. You did put it in this year's bid for the 40th Street conversion. So that money will go back into the coffers. And then we'll add it back to the 21-22 budget that we'll start working on later this month. He is also completing the bathroom renovations, and will be putting that bathroom back, just as soon as they can get it. It looks awesome. You did a
Yeah,
great
I've seen it.
job.
It looks really good.
With allowing us to completely renovate this bathroom, and it saved us a ton of money as well. Beach Patrol will start a recruitment in this month, and training also will begin this month in advance of them hitting the Strand for the Easter season, which is early this year. If I'm not mistaken, it's the first weekend in April.
April 4th.
So they are gearing up already so that they can at least be on the beach for that week. And then they will go to weekends until Memorial Day. The department heads have prepared their budgets request, and you will be getting those if Tara has not already given you that. You will get those in advance of the March 16th meeting, when the department heads will meet with you individually to discuss their individual needs and their department needs, and to get any feedback or answer any questions that you have. So we just ask that you detail your review and the information that has been given to you, so that the department heads will walk out of that meeting with a clear understanding of what you all are asking them and what they're asking you for. And then the last thing I have is that Tara did go with Local Gov. They will be mailing a postcard to all property owners within the town of Sunset Beach, because we are unable to nail down who has rental property and who doesn't. So we made the decision to send it to all property owners. It is a postcard that was telling you that the accommodations tax collection is going online, and opportunities for you to sign up for training and register with the Local Gov system. So be on the lookout for those postcards. They'll be coming soon. Also, the hurricane reentry passes will be going in the mail in March. The envelope says in red, 2021 hurricane reentry passes. So please do not throw the envelope away. We didn't get any extra passes this year. So if you throw them away, lose them, the dog eats them, we don't have anything to give you. So I'm just be mindful that those hurricane passes are on their way to you, and be looking in your mailboxes for them.
That's just on the island again, right?
Just the island are the only ones who get hurricane passes now.
We have a very active real estate market. What happens to those people who buy houses, move in, don't have the addresses down here yet?
We'll make accommodations for those people who can prove that they have just purchased property.
Okay, so there will be some flexibility at least.
Yes, for new residents, new property owners, there will be.
Will it be part of the CO process? So when you issue a CO for a new building, that it comes with a hurricane pass?
Well, that would be great, but unfortunately, we can't work with every attorney in the world to make sure that they know that we give out hurricane passes.
Okay.
Anything else?
That's all I got, unless you got questions for me.
On that Local Gov, what happens if one of our properties is renting their property out but not registering with Local Gov?
Well, I let Tara leave, and I don't have any idea. Tell you the truth. If I'm remembering correctly, there's an audit system that we could go through that would pick up those properties. In addition to, this company is watching the social medias and the local markets of where private owners are renting their homes, or Airbnb or VRBOs.
So within this contract, there's a process where the contractor will be scanning the internet widely to find and identify people who are trying to slip by.
Correct.
And there'll be a price to pay if you get caught.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else?
That's all I got.
All right, now
Thank you.
go ahead. Now moving on to our old business. And I think, John, you might have jumped the gun on that motion a while ago, because we was just actually doing the discussion then, and now it comes up for dredging project discussion action. So Lisa, do we need to strike that from that section, considering it wasn't even in the agenda until now, and then redo that?
You can do it that way. Since we rearranged this agenda, I'm sure that's where the error happened.
Okay.
But I'll just move this motion that was made and all the discussion
Into
to
that
under
one.
this.
Okay.
If that's
Yeah, 'cause
okay with you
It was
all.
coming up, but we just didn't get that far yet. So that takes care of number one.
Thank
Pick up
you.
the pace here.
Moving up to Parking Regulations Enforcement Program, Ms. Lisa Anglin.
Okay, hang on, let me find that piece of paper. Okay, during the February 16th meeting, when you all were finalizing your option for the parking regulation enforcement program that you have been working with Chief Claymore for several months now, in all the discussions that you were holding, it was clear that option 5 was the consensus that you all were leaning towards. However, when the motion was made, it was only for the additional officers, the permanent part-time, the internal promotion, were the only things that were cited in that motion. So I just basically need you to restate that motion selecting option 5, which includes all of that personnel plus the vehicles, and the equipment to outfit the officer and the vehicle.
It was my understanding that that's what we had voted on
Mine too.
in option 5.
I thought
We
so.
we voted on that, but what she's saying is
Yeah,
the wording
yeah.
was not gave out
Yeah,
in the
but I
motion.
mean, just to
So we just
clarify,
need clarification, yes.
that
So we need a motion
Yes.
to accept option 5, including the hiring of 2 patrol officers, a permanent part-time administrative specialist, an internal promotion to captain, and the purchase of 2 vehicles and equipment to outfit both vehicles.
Yes. We have that motion.
Did you just make that motion?
Yes.
Okay.
Second.
Have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Okay. Moving on next, will be to our COVID-19 state of emergency proclamation revisions. I think Pro Tem Corbett had some questions or statements or something in regards to this.
It was getting to be time for us to update our proclamation, which we hadn't done in September, and there had been a large number of executive orders since then. And the governor last week issued Executive Order 195 that lifted the modified stay-at-home order and certain restrictions, and it's in effect until March 26. One of the key things in that is that it changed the mass gathering limit, which had been since December, it had been 10 individuals for an inside gathering under Executive Order 176. However, under Executive Order 195, mass gathering limit has been returned to 25 individuals for inside activities. The limit for the outdoor settings remains at 50 individuals to include parades, fairs, and festivals. The executive order also changed the cutoff time on the sale of alcoholic beverages for on-site consumption, extending it from 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. It really doesn't have a major impact on our community, but that's what's there. The other applicable provisions that affect Town of Sunset Beach government responsibilities include Section 3.6, which continues the requirement from Executive Order 181 that state government and agencies headed by members of the government's cabinet and the governor's office must have their on-site workers wear face masks, face coverings when they are indoors. And then it adds all other state and local government agencies are strongly encouraged to adopt some policies. Executive Order 3.10A continues the requirement that face coverings are required for all people in parks if they're within 6 feet of another person, and we have a park that applies to. The background for this changed order was the increased availability of vaccinations and the general downward trends in key COVID-19 metrics that the state uses. New cases, hospitalizations, percent of tests with positive results, and daily deaths. However, because the state's key COVID-19 metrics remain at elevated levels, and because the potential impact of the presence of new variants of virus in North Carolina, the state continues a targeted and phased approach. It continues to stress that it's critical to continue wearing face coverings, maintaining social distancing, and washing hands frequently. So, in terms of a discussion, my view is that the council should discuss whether we want to continue to adopt provisions that are in line with the governor's current executive orders or institute more restrictive provisions as permitted by the executive order. We are not permitted to adopt regulations and rules that reduce the governor's executive orders. So with that decision, we should also consider whether any additional changes in our operating procedures are appropriate and consider issuing an updated emergency resolution. And so the recommendation that I have in here includes an item 1 that for a new resolution that the mass gathering limits for special events in the town park and within the town limits are 25 for inside events and 50 for outside events to include parades, fairs, and festivals. That's in accordance with section 5.1 of the executive order. Item 2, that the council continues to not accept public comments via email. That's the current policy that the town has. Item 3, requirement that staff and visitors in town hall must wear face coverings indoor within 6 feet of other personnel. That brings our emergency proclamation into conformity with the executive order. Items 4, 5, and 6 in our current proclamation would remain the same. In terms of additional operating policies, the main thing is we are now meeting, and you see us here with the entire council in person, in line with our guideline of having public comments take place here in the building. You know, my view is that we should also consider that it's time that all of our meetings members be fully present. And that would be no Zoom and no telephone call-ins for the meetings. So that's all up for discussion. I wrote it so you know my views.
Well, I've stated my views from previous meetings, so I'm not going to have to rehash all that stuff. So whatever you all are willing to do, I'm willing to do as well to lighten things up in accordance with the governor's perspective, because I know you all will not go further than that.
Was that a motion, John?
No, I didn't make a motion. I brought it here for discussion.
And basically, we've been going pretty much by what the governor said anyway, so I don't see why there'd be a change from that. So,
This is all fairly consistent with what we've been doing. So
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah,
see I don't see any-
slight changes.
so I don't know, do we even need a motion to go with the change? Because we've not changed. I mean, we're staying pretty much where we're at. We're not changing anything other than the numbers on that one, which all we've done on that is just went with whatever the governor
Anything
said.
but anything in red would be changed. So
Yeah, the stuff in red is new. And there's a question, are we going to require that we attend our meetings in person as opposed to remotely?
Yeah, that's perfectly fine. I don't see why that would be a problem. I think everybody, well, me and Jamie maybe not, but the rest of y'all's had your shot, because y'all all older than us. We ain't available to get it.
and I'm not so worried at this point.
Yeah.
Knock on wood. But,
So,
so that being said, I'd like to make a motion that we accept these changes as written
do I have a second?
with the additional thing
With
that
addition-
members will be
yep.
present.
All right. Do I, second, do I have any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Next up will be our new business ordinance 9262 amendment, membership limit. Paul Hosselmeyer, our chief. Go ahead, sir.
All right, ordinance 92.62 membership limits. Right now it states, at no time shall the membership of the fire company exceed 35 active members exclusive of the chief. Our roster is full, 35 plus me as the fire chief. Over the last couple of years since I've been here, especially, we've been working on staffing needs assessment, and looking at future planning provisions of a comprehensive emergency plan for the town of Sunset Beach and the combined fire district. The town is 5 square miles or just over that, and our fire district currently is around 16 square miles. So we're looking at all that. Really, we're looking at this for future needs, growth, and as there's a need for the department to change, increase service demands, the recommendation really originally in here I put raise it to 50. More I think about it, just eliminate the number. I'm not looking to add 100 part-timers. Currently, we have 18 full-timers, 9 part-time and 8 paid on call for a total of 35 plus me. Some of the part-timers and some of the paid on call firefighters currently help us work on the beach. So that didn't happen previously. So they're using up some of their max part-time hours they can work every year on the beach. So having a few more part-timers is going to help us staff fire trucks when full-timers are off and assist with other events. Really, this legislation is older legislation that prevents us from further controlled growth of the department and to take care of the town. So this kind of precludes our next item.
I have a motion, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead, sir.
I move that we eliminate the number of 35 active member maximum.
All right, do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Sorry, that's for discussion. All right, moving on to our next. Go ahead, Mr. Paul Hosselmeyer. Again, you on the FEMA Assistance for Firefighter Grant.
All right, this next item is a FEMA Assistance for Firefighters grant known as SAFER. SAFER stands for Staffing for Adequate Fire and Emergency Response Grants. This item is an opportunity for us to apply, and let me preclude a couple things here. One, I've never wrote a SAFER grant for the FEMA AFG program. If you all support me writing the grant, I will try my hardest to justify why we need the funding, but this is a tough one. It's a lot of work. It's due by March 16th, so I got a lot of typing to do if you support this idea. The goal of the SAFER program is to enhance and bring back laid off firefighters. Currently, we don't have laid off full-time firefighters. We would be looking to use the grant funding, which is 100% funded for 3 years, to add an additional 6 firefighters, full-time firefighters to our staff. This is a federal funding opportunity that supports the town. It's a way for us to show that we can improve our staffing and help the town of Sunset Beach and our fire district. So I'm asking your support to help write, well, not help me write it, I'll write it, but just your support in letting me write and try to get this. I've looked at some other projections as far as, one of the goals with this is long-term sustainability. In 3 years, the funding goes away. If I don't apply for this grant, or you don't want me to apply for the grant in the budget coming up here in a couple of weeks, I'm not going to ask for 6 more full-time firefighters. That's not happening. I know we don't have enough money in the budget. This is a way for us to request federal funds and show our need for the positions. 3 years from now, we will, and I've looked at some of the development, the building projections, fire fee projections over the next couple of years in different areas, and the fire fees appear that they're going to be continuing to rise. So what we anticipate and see coming down the pipe would also provide some sustainability to these positions in 3+ years from now.
I have a question. This grant is 100% funded for 3 years. That includes the 6 firefighter positions and their equipment and everything?
Salaries, insurance, fringe benefits, all of that will apply for 100% funding.
Well, I would have
I
a
would-
motion. then.
But
Yeah,
not,
I
not,
would hope the council would go forward with this, anything
Not-
with grants.
not gear.
Right.
not personal gear that they would need.
I
Does
don't
each
know.
firefighter have a set of gear?
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that without getting into the grant portal to look to see if we can apply for that. I don't think so. I think it's just going to be for personnel costs, but we'll be able to maintain that with operating expenditures now.
Didn't you apply for a grant for new Scott Pack?
Yeah, air packs, that's a regional air pack grant that's been applied for. It's in the queue for review at FEMA right now.
Does this one require a motion, or are we just giving him a direction? Does have a motion? All right, go ahead,
Just
Charlie.
a question, Chief? So,
Sure.
Call it
so
out
after
as you-
3 years, then the 6 additional, if we get the 6, they would remain on staff, or they would leave, or what?
So ideally, if we justify the case to increase the staffing with the grant process and the federal government, and they approve us, it basically shows that there's a need for it. And over the course of the next 3 years, if we're awarded the funding, I'll be looking for ways to sustain those members moving forward. Fire fee increases, revenue sources, potentially even applying for future grants. The idea would be to keep them.
So would you expect it would have an impact on the fire fees that residents would see?
Our fire fees in the town are pretty much, we can't raise it, right, Lisa? I think it's pretty much to the max, or to the max of.
Are you talking about the fire fee per square foot as a max?
Right,
or-
that's not-
Or the number of residences that we can charge fire fees to?
The amount for a certain size house won't go up.
The fire fee rate
Right.
is at a max.
Yeah,
because-
well, not max, but
or
near the max.
Near the max.
So there's not more revenue to grab there at this point, right?
When
That's correct.
When I look at, if I can make it just comment, when I look at back of the envelope type of calculations, the Planning Inspections Department folks provided us a chart of how many new properties we got in the last 5 years, and it was 326 inside the town. Doesn't count outside the town. Or there's about 65, residents, single-family residences that are coming online per year just on the average, and we're peaking up at that. But looking at the planning that we have almost 250 properties that will probably be coming online within this year, if not next year. And then in the following 2 to 3 years, we have another 600 of them that are all pretty much permitted now without all the stuff coming on. So we've got another 850 places coming on. So my estimation is 3 years from now, the new properties with the fire fees that they would pay, would kind
More than
of
make
pay
it.
for the
Yeah.
fire department.
Yeah.
And that would be my major concern to do that. And I think the numbers are there that would be able to keep those 6 people on staff, plus we probably need them by that time.
Yeah, with the as things grow, at some point we're gonna need some more help. Is reality, and I did some number crunching just as you did with, 350 houses across from the post office, 150 townhouses next to Sunset Ridge. We don't know everything else going on in the town, but there's stuff coming in other parts of the fire district. I feel perfectly comfortable doing this projecting that we're going to have a sustainable way to fund these positions long-term, being conservative, but aggressive at the same time to stay ahead of the curve for service demands.
Yeah, I think this is a worthwhile project to go after. If you need help editing your draft proposal, I'd be glad to volunteer.
I may with this one because we've wrote a few grants and lately.
Motion's on the floor.
Start typing.
Finish it out.
Yeah. I move that we direct Chief Hassenmeyer to write and apply for the Assistance for Firefighters Grant, safer for 6 firefighter positions in the coming application period.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, moving on next to be our disposition of directives for our March 16th, 2021 meeting. Does anyone have anything that needs to be added or changed? Mr. Phillips, you have anything? Sir. Mr. Borman?
Nothing to add.
Mr. Nern?
Nothing.
Mr. Corbett?
Nothing.
Ms. Harris?
Nothing.
All right. Public comments.
If I could
Go
ask
ahead, go
one
ahead,
thing.
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
With the state of emergency, with you all wanting it on the first meeting of every month, and since the executive order doesn't expire until the end of March, I will have already released that packet, more than likely. Do you want the state of emergency on this next agenda coming up?
I would like it on there, and if there's nothing to change, it's going to be going on till the 28th, and about 3 days in advance, the governor will make a decision. We'll know 3 or 4 days beforehand.
Right. Okay, just
And-
making sure.
And I'll be glad to submit any updates if it's appropriate. You know, hopefully we can cancel it soon.
All right. Going ahead with our public comments. We have somebody up. Please step to the microphone, state your name and your address.
Hello, my name is Ronald Cohn. I am property owner of multiple properties on the island. My address is 401 16th Street, and I will keep my comments brief within the 3 minutes allowed.
Thank you, sir.
I'm sorry?
Go ahead. Thank you.
Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, I need to bring to the attention of the council an issue that has been ongoing for almost 3 years now. With the help of people within the city's administration, we resolved an issue that began 2.5 years ago when the road was paved. In simple, the road coming down North Shore was put in, and after the road was put in, all the water channeled down the road and unfortunately ended up at 16th Street with no runoffs planned, no stormwater management plan. And according to the county and the state that, they helped to share with me, all that engineering that could have been done to protect those things were not done. Now, the city did gracefully and I do appreciate, realize what happened, and with the good work of some of your people like Dustin Graham and John in Stormwater Management, they were able to resolve the issue to my satisfaction, and for the last couple years, 90% of that water has been under control, even in major rainfalls. However, with even simple rain that we had recently, because of a construction on the corner of 16th and North Shore, the methods of controlling the water that were put in by the city to resolve this have been removed. I've been in touch with Carrie and building inspections. I sent him an email this week. I was fortunate enough to talk to Chad, your planning director, who talked with me. Dustin has been out numerous times. He's been extremely helpful. But the problem is that the CO is going to be issued either yesterday, today, Monday, Tuesday, whenever, on this property, which has removed the solutions that the city found, and I agreed to, that took care of 90% of the problem, leaving the problem back where it is now. I gave solutions to the city. I didn't know if the city council was aware of it. I did speak with one member, and I won't go any farther because I know the member is aware of it, may have shared it with you, but here's the issue. According to North Carolina General Statute 77-13 and 14, it states, and I will quickly quote this, it says, if the higher landowner unreasonably diverts the flow of runoff, increases the flow, or contaminates the runoff in a way that causes the material damage to the lower landowner, then the lower landowner can bring an action or injunction and damages. Landowners are considered equal under common law, whether they be private citizens, companies, road authorities, federal, state, or local governments. We were able to resolve this and have continued to resolve this. I ask only this from this council. The ball is being passed laterally from one department to the other. If the CO is issued without being rectified, as this city did, this will not cost the city any money to do it, but making these people do what was there before that they took away, this, if they would put those back in, I will be satisfied, and this won't escalate beyond where it is at this point. I simply state this to you, that we must protect those who built here prior, and it's more than the interest in tax base here. It's protecting all of us, as the law requires, but protecting us because it's the right thing to do. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Anyone else?
No.
I need action though, but I do need some action shortly because if not, if the city doesn't take action and the CO is issued, you're leaving me no option. But the city has always rectified this before.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you for the information, sir. Anything else? All right. There's no further comments, questions, or any issues. We'll be going to adjourn. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.